This episode of Walt Disney World Today is sponsored by MEI and MouseFan Travel. MEI and MouseFan Travel is an authorized Disney vacation planner, specializing in cruises and packages to Disney and other vacation destinations around the world. They provide signature service with no agency fees. Get a no-obligation quote at www.mousefantravel.com. This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Wednesday, April 23rd, 2008, and this is episode 400 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm Matt Hodgberg from StudioCentral.com. That's all the sound effects we have, folks. That's it. On the show today, we have Mike Scopa of allears.net. Mike, what intro do you have that is worthy of episode 400?
Muppets.
No, Cranium Command.
Oh, Muppets pre-show. Why is the chicken across the street?
There's a chicken in there's a chicken in Cranium Command too, so I should get.
But obviously the clucking was not the same one. Duh.
Oh, I'm sorry that the Scopa's impersonation of the clucking didn't.
He didn't do it with the right accent.
Yeah, that's right.
It was right. I needed a studio's accent there, and what I got was an Epcot accent.
That's right. Also on the show today we have Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Hi, Mike.
Happy 400.
All right. And also joining us, we have Len Testa, co-author of the unofficial guide to Walt Disney World, which is online at touringplans.com. Hi, Len.
Hey, Matt. How are you?
Outstanding.
Letters. We get letters. We get stacks and stacks of letters.
Nothing says episode 400 like a listener question show. And it's Wednesday, and that's what we're doing. So let's start out with an email from Steve. Don't call me Chi-Chi Medina. Who writes, hey, Len, Matt, Mikey, and Mike. Apparently you guys aren't much into golf, so I'd like to volunteer my services. If the unofficial guide is willing to foot the bill, I'd be more than happy to take a research team and report on the 99 holes of golf at the world. Better yet, maybe we can have a show on the subject. Ooh, even better, the first annual Walt Disney World Today Golf Invitational. We can invite Tiger. No, not that Tiger. I'm talking about Mike El Tigre Scopa. Let me know the next time what you guys think.
We actually have a golf pro who does the golf section for the guide.
Nice.
But if Medina wants to go play and tell us about the write-up, maybe we can work something out.
Nice. But there may be you'll have to ask him for a favor later on at a in the future.
was that a really bad Godfather reference?
Yeah, that's a terrible Godfather reference.
They make up a day, and that day may never happen. Or I come to ask you for a favor. Something like that. Anyway.
Next email is from Vicky, who writes, I was thinking of booking our next family's Walt Disney World trip September 30th through 20th to take advantage of the free dining package. Is this usually a very busy time, or not so much? Love your podcast. I found it this past January and look forward to every episode.
September 13th through the 20th?
Yes.
Oh, really slow. Yeah, 3s, 4s, and 5s.
Oh God, yeah.
On the crowd calendar. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the few 3 days there are in the entire crowd calendar between the middle of September and the middle of October.
And that's of course why they offer free dining when they offer it, because it's a very dead time of the year.
Now we're probably going to increase the crowd calendar on some days by 1, 0.5 to 1 on the scale. Just because of free dining, because we know that the Disney resorts are going to be more full than we expected. But still, it's going to be slow.
Yeah, absolutely. Next email is from Jill Ann of Indiana, who writes, Hi, Disney dudes. WDWMagic.com is reporting that the Virtual Magic Kingdom may be closing soon. Is there any truth to this? And if so, why is Disney destroying my favorite website? Mongello, I Like Turtles, Long Live Scopa Towers, etc.
Yada, yada, yada.
I don't think that they got the response that they were expecting from VMK. Don't forget they bought Club Penguin for like $700 million last year.
$700 million?
I know, started by 4 dads. Four clowns like us, actually. $700 million.
Well, if they want to buy a podcast, there's plenty of stuff we could sell in here.
Yeah. Would you wrap that?
Yeah.
Well, it is closing on May 21st of this year. Len, you think that there wasn't enough response or too much response? I think it's too much response.
No. Well, it didn't translate into revenue, let's put it that way.
Well, I think that that it may not have translated enough revenue, although I think it's very hard also to figure out how that I need to see how you can figure out how that translates into revenue at all, because I think it just builds brand. But more importantly, I think that you do bring up a good point, Len. They bought Club Penguin. They have their Pirates of the Caribbean online. They have Toontown online. What do all three of those little online properties have in common? They all cost money. Although there are some free aspects to the games, but really, I mean, they want you to pay money. VMK generates zero income from it. It's just a cost.
Yeah,
but I just think. See, here's my thing, and I'll let you go on. I know I'm interrupting you on this. I'm just going to say that I think VMK, which is usually it's mostly kids who go there, although there are plenty of adults I go on there as well, but it's mostly younger kids over there, maybe the preteen generation or the young teens. I think that builds brand with them, and later on in life that'll translate back out. Because they played virtual VMK, they might be more inclined to want to go to Disney World and egg their parents on and say, hey, let's go to Disney World or Disneyland. But go ahead, Len.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes sites like Club Penguin and Webkins and Stardolls popular is that there are simple games you can play. You earn coins or points or whatever, and you can decorate your own room for your pet, your penguin, or your dolls. But if you go up to the next level of kids, go from like grade school kids to tweens or teens, they're not going to be content with simple 64-color games and rudimentary decorating of their own igloo. They need something more than that, and I don't know that Disney's yet figured out what that is. In fact, I don't know that there are many gaming sites that have figured out what that is, other than World of Warcraft and such like that.
Right.
Maybe Disney's looking for with Pirates of the Caribbean a site like that. I don't know that they have it yet, but personally, I'd love to be able to decorate my own haunted mansion. We'll see. We'll see what they do.
I was under the impression that VMK was only there for the 50th anniversary of Disneyland.
Yeah, you're right. It was launched in part of the 50th anniversary celebration,
right? And
I think it blew up to such an extent. I don't think they anticipated it being as popular as it is and has become.
If it's popular, when was the last time they turned off something because it was too popular? I don't think that's it at all.
Well, I guess that's a good point. Next email is from Sean Neva, who writes, I just finished listening to the podcast of the Unofficial Guide reviews from people on Coronado Springs, and I have to say that I'm shocked at least of the food value and the cleanliness. We ate at the Pepper Market 3 or 4 times, a couple of lunches and dinners, and every one was more than we could eat. Me and my wife aren't light eaters either, even though we are in shape. I wonder if the reason we had so much food left over was based on what we bought. I had a personal pizza once and a Mexican food a few times, and my wife had the steak and Mexican food as well. We actually thought that the more food here than at almost any other restaurant that we've been to. Well, leaving out the buffets, of course. Also, the room was extremely clean, and anytime I needed something from the check-in counter, they were right on it. Even at 2:30 in the morning when I had a small problem with a pot that we won't go into here. We stayed.
I want to hear more about that. Maybe.
We stayed 8 nights, and besides the mess and lines from the convention center traffic, they need to get that fixed. Everything was great. In fact, even with the convention center people, we said that we would stay here for next time for sure. Just thought I would chime in on this, but as the song says, Scope is right on the convention center, and the people in suits, man, they bug you when you're on vacation attire and have to keep seeing them.
I think we have to say something here, and Len, I'd like your comments on this too. I think that the Pepper Market is so different from any other food court that I think that when guests try that for the first time, they really don't know what they're getting into, and I think that they tend to over-order. Being able to go from this place to look at all this stuff, I think it's very easy that you could end up going back to your table and you say, oh my God, why did I get all this food? So, a little caution out there to anybody who's going to Coronado Springs Resort and you're eating at Pepper Market. Make sure you really assess what you're getting before you bring it back to the table.
Yeah, it is a ton of food. Yeah, but and to the point, it's I think the variety is very good. I think it was one of those things where I too was surprised with the Unofficial Guide reader survey. But it's hundreds of people writing, and it's not like it's the same 2 people over and over again. I don't know.
Let's move on to the next email which comes from Jamie from Illinois, who writes, hello everyone, still love the podcast. Now that I am off maternity leave and driving to work, I am catching up on all the podcasts that I have missed.
Awesome.
I have questions about the Disney Vacation Club. I recently visited my local Doorway to Dream store at Woodfield in Illinois. They had the Animal Kingdom lodge rooms on display, which was really fun to go through. I've been wanting to purchase for a while since my husband and I have been fortunate to visit each year for the past 4 years for 2 weeks at a time. We just had our first child, a little girl, this past October 2007, and I'm not sure when we'll be going next. I say next year. My husband says no. Just a side note to pregnant listeners, I did go while 6 months pregnant and really enjoyed it. Although baby and Disney dining plan in belly don't all fit. Here are my questions. Is it worth purchasing more than a year out before we go and bank the points for a 2-week visit?
No.
Sure, I would.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you get to use it at some point. I mean, you might as well get in on it because obviously points go up in price as time goes on, especially with Disney. So, you'll be able to get locked in at that lower price rate now, and that could save you some money in the long run rather than waiting another year. Won't be a huge difference, obviously, next year, but over the course of how many points you're buying, that can make a big difference. Jamie also wants to know, what resort has the best value for a one-bedroom? Note, we drive to the park to save time, so location is not too much of an issue. Len, would you have to say probably Old Key West or Saratoga?
Saratoga,
Yeah, there's. I think I would look at the points charts to look at what has the least expensive one. They're all good, but I think Old Key West or Saratoga have the consistently the lowest point charts. Check the point chart though, just to make sure.
Yeah. No, I love Saratoga. I've stayed in the one bedroom before. It's fantastic. Jamie also wants to know one last question. What is the disadvantage of purchasing resale? Newell, maybe you have a insight on this?
Is there any?
I was going to say I didn't have any problem whatsoever. The only thing is that when you go in to buy resale, Disney has that first right of refusal. So if there is something for sale, Disney has the opportunity to buy it back from the current seller before you get a chance to get it. So that's the only thing you have to kind of worry about. In other words, if I'm trying to sell to Matt, Disney could stop in and say, "Listen, we're going to buy those points back, so your sale is now null and void." So
right. I mean, and that's of course also to keep it from being like Newell selling me his points for 50 cents each, and then I get They want to be able to obviously be able to intercept that, so to speak. But I've generally heard great things about buying resale.
My experience with Chantel over at DVC by Resale was great. I had no problem whatsoever.
Next email is from Ed Klimzak of Amherst, Ohio. Writes, "Hi, I love your show. I'm going to Disney. I go about 3 to 4 times a year, although I live in the Cleveland, Ohio area. I'm an annual pass holder and DVC member, which helps. My question is, do you know of any website that has all the conventions held at Walt Disney World in coming months? I'm an accountant, and there are some conventions I'd like to attend, especially at Disney, but I do not know what's happening over there. A complete list would make it easier for me to look up individual companies and find their conventions. I'm sure there is not last-minute conventions. There needs to be reserved many months or maybe even years ahead of time. I understand some conventions are closed to employees only, but maybe many are not. Any ideas? I did ask a cast member, but he didn't know."
The Orlando Visitor and Convention Bureau has a list of upcoming conventions for like 12 months in advance. And nice. Sometimes it's good to just go through that and see what's applicable.
I'll put a link in the show notes. Next email is from PJ from Las Vegas, Nevada, who writes, "Hey Matt, was just listening to the listener question show episode 341 when someone asked about the music playing in the California Grill during the fireworks at hard ticket events. When at the grill during Very Merry Mickey dinner, I learned the hard way that the music does not play during dinner. I had set it up in hopes that it would play. The restaurant did dim the lights, but no music played. Thanks for the great podcast." So we thank PJ for that. Next email is from Johnson Willis, who writes, "I just got back from a short trip to Walt Disney World on February 5th. While I was there, some kind of huge cheerleading dance competition was going on. Also, there was apparently some kind of Louisiana State alumni gathering. Our best guess was that there was pretty much the entire state of Louisiana was down there for this event. Those two events made it seem as though crowd levels were much higher than I normally would expect for the first weekend in February. Now for my question. Is there any way..."
It was Mardi Gras, by the way.
There you go.
It was Mardi Gras.
Yeah. Now for my question, though. Is there any way that we can find out about these types of events before we get down there so we can plan around them? I saw nothing about them in the Disney site, so it does not appear that they are official in any way.
We started putting some of the larger events on the crowd calendar, so things like Mardi Gras, I think, was there.
Yep.
Cheerleading competitions, we've got the big ones. We've got Pop Warner in December on the calendar. And again, the Orlando Visitor and Convention Bureau will list some of the very large conventions. Generally, cheerleader competitions where it's a couple hundred or a couple thousand people, that's, unless they're going through the Visitor and Convention Bureau, that's not going to get listed anywhere either. That's going to be harder to find out about.
Yeah, I mean, there's some big events out there. Pop Warner comes to mind. There are the cheerleading and dance competitions in late January, early February. You have obviously grad nights, and that can impact some things. There are some biggies, and Len, you do put them on your crowd calendar over there. A Gay Days is another one that comes to mind. And these are official and unofficial things that are going on in the parks. And you can definitely, that'd be a good idea. And I think the ones, I guess your point, Len, that you're trying to make, if I can put words in your mouth, is that, if it isn't one of these huge ones, the impact is not as great.
Yeah, I don't think they are. Even for things like free dining, the impact is only like half a point on the crowd calendar for other reasons that we won't talk about here. But Mardi Gras, I guess, was pretty big from people for Louisiana. Pop Warner is going to be the biggest. After that, though, again, couple thousand people really doesn't make any impact at Disney. You've really got to have in the tens of thousands before there really starts to be an impact. I mean, resort accommodations aside.
Right, yep. Next email is from Kevin from Fort Wayne, Indiana, who writes, "Hello, Walt Disney World Today gang. While listening to Mouse World Radio 1 and thinking about my upcoming trip in May of 2000-something, I started wondering if Mr. Scopa might have some suggestions on how the average person might train for a visit to Walt Disney World. We all know that there's a lot of walking to do around the parks, which can take its toll during a vacation. Do you guys have regimens that you use leading up to a visit to train your legs for getting around the world? Maybe Len can tell us the average number of steps a Walt Disney World guest takes in a day."
6 miles a day, right, Len?
Yeah, 6 or 7. Yeah, 6 or 7 is probably on the low end of average.
So basically, if you can walk 6 miles a day, you're okay. You're all ready.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And it's on concrete, which I think a lot of people don't realize because your feet take a pounding. Yeah, it's different from asphalt, which has a little bit more give, and you'd be surprised. I mean, they're both hard surfaces, but concrete's harder than asphalt. And it's not grass either. So not only that, but the thing, and Mike, I'm sure you know this, it's not like you're just walking straight. You're moving right and left to dodge people and stores.
Dodge people, yep.
And you're walking up and down on curbs and stuff like that. That is the part that takes the toll on you. It's you could probably walk 6 or 7 miles straight. It's the lateral movement that you got to practice for. And I think what's really good, what people I've seen people do here when they're trying to get in shape is they walk in malls. Like once around the mall is a quarter of a mile or whatever. So you do 16 laps and that's 4 miles. That's useful because, well, number one, it's air conditioned. Number two, you can stop for a Starbucks if you need it. Number three, there's nothing like a double espresso to get your heart rate up. Number three, though, you're practicing moving around people.
Yes.
And I think that helps.
I think a lot of it also is not only what you mentioned, Len, also standing. There's a lot of standing going on. And it doesn't sound like it's a high-impact thing, but after a better portion of the day where you're standing, whether it be it online for something, be it waiting for a show, waiting in line for whatever, there's 1,001, food. When you're a lot of standing really adds up quickly, and it can really add to the fatigue factor, I think, in my opinion.
I think so too. You're exactly right.
It also depends upon how you tour the parks. I mean, if you're doing, commando style, then you're going to really get more tired than if you're doing slug touring, which is, strolling around doing this. But Len makes a good point in that you're always avoiding people stepping laterally, and it's just like running a race. They tell you don't run around people because you're going to expend more energy if you're going laterally than if you're going just north-south.
Yeah. Next email is from Chip Joyce, who writes, "All right, I think you'll get to this before August 2008, so here goes. My girlfriend is a dessert junkie and still laments the fact that we didn't try the mini donuts at Blizzard Beach on our last trip. Our next trip will be later this year, but I don't anticipate that we'll be going to the water parks this time around. Is there anywhere else on property that you can get the same mini donuts that they have at that stand at Blizzard Beach?"
I think so. For the listeners who don't know, they're like the size of donut holes.
I've never had them before.
So Hannah won 24 of them when she was the big kahuna of the day over at Blizzard Beach.
Nice.
Yeah, the Blizzard Beach are definitely good.
I think. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So she so we won 24 of them. So they're quickly they're deep fried quickly, and then while they're still hot, they put them in a brown paper sack, and then like a quarter of a cup of sugar goes on them, and then shake the bag to get the sugar all over them. They are fabulous when they're hot. You just need a huge thing of Coke though to go with them, because the first one's just going to burn your mouth going down.
Nice.
But it was fabulous. So they were really, really good. I don't know anywhere else on Disney property where you could get it.
I've never run into them. I mean, this is the first I've heard about them. Have any of you guys seen them anywhere?
Nope. I mean, the two of us ate the 24 of them.
Two of us, meaning you had all of them, and you maybe gave one to Hannah, who actually won it.
Len had 23.
See, when you say it, Matt, it just doesn't sound that. It sounds mean. When I say it, it sounds like responsible parenting by not letting the child have too much sugar.
That's right. This isn't good for you. I'm going to take it all for you.
Hold on, we just check on these.
Nom. Cookies.
Exactly.
Next email is from Dee Dee from Frankfort, Illinois, who writes, I wrote you a little while ago asking a few questions about the world and what I needed to save since we pay cash for everything. Anyways, my husband reminded me that active duty military, which he is, gets to use Shades of Green, and we know very little about it. We know that we can stay there and get a discount on tickets, but what if what are the differences between Shades of Green and the rest of the resort? Are there any other military discounts? I know since Scope is probably a veteran, but I was wondering what he, as a veteran
of the Spanish-American War.
I should have got a better line. But I was wondering what he, as a veteran of the Revolutionary War or the Crusades. Just kidding.
I remember when Pope Urban XVI called us.
Remember the monitor. Yeah.
Remember the monitor. Remember the Bane. Remember the monitor. That was the war. That was nice.
All right. So military discounts.
Yeah. So there are discounts on tickets, and also there's a discount, obviously, over at Shades of Green. Shades of Green is like an upscale moderate. Now there's two parts to it. There's an older part and a newer part. The older rooms are a little bit smaller, and I would say they're more like a moderate at Port Orleans Riverside, Port Orleans French Quarter. We actually had a listener help us out by letting us stay in there in one last year, so we've got photos of it and everything.
Nice.
And then there's a newer part, which is larger rooms, more open. I think the color scheme's slightly different. And those are as good as all but the very best Disney Deluxes. And for the money, you can't beat it.
Next email is from Tony in Orange County, California. As my family and I are going to the world in August 2008, we'll be purchasing annual passes and the Disney Dining Experience card, as we are staying for 2 weeks and hoping for a return trip before they expire. We're staying at the Dolphin and renting a car. Is it possible to use our annual passes or Disney Dining Experience card to park overnight for free at the Boardwalk or Ticket Transportation Center or somewhere else? I want to get, quote, the best of both worlds. Shameless Van Halen reference intended. Thanks for all the help from touringplans.com, the Ding book, and the podcast. I think what Tony's alluding to here is, for those who don't know, to park at Swan and Dolphin costs, what is it, $10 a day or something like that. It doesn't matter if you're a resort guest or not. And that's pretty hefty in my estimation, especially considering they charge resort guests to park at their own resort every single day. So, can you park for free at the Boardwalk or Ticket or Transportation Center or somewhere else to kind of, avoid the fee?
I think you could probably park at Boardwalk. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
I mean,
you probably could.
You could, whether or not. I mean, there's two sides. First of all, there's the morality of doing so, but then on the flip side, well, where's the morality
of charging your guests?
Yeah, exactly. Where's the morality in that? So I figure, Tony, you're evening out the universe. I would park probably at one of the resorts rather than like the Ticket or Transportation Center. That might look a little weird that the same car is always at the parking lot every day at night. That's really obviously the issue.
Yeah, that might be the thing that gets you.
Yeah, I mean, at a resort, it's okay because there's going to be a lot of other cars over there. Also, with Disney Dining Experience, you could just, you technically could just use the free valet option over there, and then at least, you're maybe
overnight?
Yeah, you can do it I've done it overnight.
You valeted overnight, really?
Yeah, absolutely. I've done it before.
Really?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of which resort did I do it at? Polynesian. I did it overnight.
And they didn't tow your car or throw it away or anything like that?
No. Got the car back.
Huh.
So,
but you weren't staying there.
Was I or wasn't I?
Yeah, you were not, right?
I was not, yeah. So, It works out.
Interesting.
Next email is from Shane Grizzard of Snellville, Georgia, who writes, Hey, Matt, Len, and Mike Squared. This is another question for Len. For this December 2008, my class is traveling down to sing in the Candlelight Processional, and I'm helping plan the trip.
Mm-hmm.
I am really pulling for the dates for MouseFest because I've never been there before, but I don't want to feel selfish or bad. It may be a cool thing for me, but I don't think the rest of my class would appreciate standing shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of Disney enthusiasts. So tell me, Mr. Testa, does MouseFest affect the crowd calendar at all? Will this will this town be big enough for the two of us? And are there any other reasons why these dates, December 11th through 15th, 2008, would be beneficial to my group? I promise, if I can get these dates to work out, I'm going to tell everyone to run up to anyone they see with a yellow lanyard and give them a hearty Mangello.
The 11th through the 18th is pretty slow, actually. 4s, 5s, and 6s on the crowd calendar, so slightly below average. But is that Scope? Is that when MouseFest is this year? I thought it was earlier.
No, it's later.
I believe it's
December 11th through the 15th.
Exactly.
11. I think, Len, that the answer to that question is that there will be pockets of time in which MouseFest could impact someone.
Yeah, it's only a couple hundred people. It's not gonna do anything for anything.
Well, yeah, it's not gonna do anything for the crowd calendar. But if you happen to be in line at Kilimanjaro Safari and about 267 people are allowed to go in front of you, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's true.
So
but I think
there are
not...
right. In general, I don't think there would be an impact, but there would be possibility that you may be in a park in which it's a designated park day for MouseFest, and you've got several thousand people there, wanting to go on Everest, wanting to go on Kilimanjaro safaris.
It's only a couple hundred. It's only a couple hundred people at most. Even then, I mean, a couple hundred. Even if it's 300 people, let's say.
I see.
Even if it's 300 people, the ride capacity for Everest is like 1,800 an hour, so that's like an extra 10-minute wait on one ride.
In general, it would be an impact, but there are some people who have different thresholds. So, for some people, it may not be a big deal, but for others, it may be like, where's my Disney travel agent? I want to complain. So it's going to depend upon the person.
Well, we're going to cut the questions a little short because it is episode 400. And as some of our listeners, our veteran listeners may know, every 100 episodes, we have at the end of the show a little surprise, little present to our listeners in the form of a blooper reel or things that were cut out of the show for one reason or another. And Mr. Newell kind of keeps track of them as they happen. He jots it down. And then he comes back, and he actually did this for episode 100. This was a surprise for us. Now it's almost expected. Of course, immediately after, everyone's saying, Newell, when are you going to get to work on episode 200? But anyway, what follows now is a short present to you all and to celebrate episode 400. So here you are.
I call it a tribute to all podcasters, but mostly Matt Hodgeberg.
Nice.
We're off the hook, Glenn.
Awesome.
Episode 400, here we come. This episode is sponsored by Fred Block. Hold on. He screwed up the ad copy. Hold on. This episode of Walt Disney World Today is being sponsored by Fred Block's Magic Meet in Disney Fan Gatherings. What? All right, let's try this again. Scopa, I have a funny feeling you'll know the answer to this one.
I'm sorry, I didn't. I was answering an email. What was that question again?
What?
All right, here we go. Save
Mr. Jefferson, I object. of Confederation.
Wow, you were sleeping.
Well, you slept soundly.
Gratified. All right.
Here we go. 3, 2,
1.
This episode of Walt Disney World Today is being sponsored by Fred Block's Magic Meets and Disney Fan Gatherings. Join over 50... Try this again. I'm trying. Fred Block's Magic Meets... Alright, I got it.
And also the show is a Len Testick, author of the unofficial guide to Walt Disney World. Welcome, one.
How the f*** is it going, Matt?
Oh, jeez.
Hello.
Oh, man. Wow. I never thought I heard that from you.
All right, let's try this again. Whoa.
When it's time to change. When it's time to change.
I remember puberty. Yeah.
Oh, man.
This episode of Walt Disney World... Nice.
You gotta send this outtake to Fred.
You, Fred Block, and your non-English wording of stuff. Where's the punctuation? Love you, Fred.
Giants fan.
All right, here we go.
And for anybody going, April and May, don't forget about wonderful package that's out now with a free ticket upgrade, ticket upgrade, ticket upgrade, ticket upgrade, ticket upgrade, ticket upgrade. It's just another.
Ow.
Did
All right,
everyone
all right.
do that?
We hear you. We hear you.
Seriously, I've got to stop drinking.
Boy, what's in this fruit too old?
Oh my God. This episode of Walt Disney World. All right, now I made myself laugh. Here we go again.
Some people do anything to be on episode 400, huh? Sorry.
Well, that's it for us today. If you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the Walt Disney World Today website at wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Silva, Mike Buell, I'm Matt Hotchberg. We'll see you on the next show.
WDW Today, WDW Today, WDW Today. When you are in trouble, you'll find WDW Today.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio. This Sunday, it's the next Walt Disney World Today live call-in show. Get your questions answered fast by our panel of WDW experts. Tune in to Mouse World Radio at 8 o'clock Eastern Time Sunday night. You can also log into our chat room during the show at wdwtoday.com. The next WDW Today live call-in show, sponsored by allears.net, 8 o'clock Eastern, this Sunday, only on Mouse World Radio. This episode of Walt Disney World Today is sponsored by MEI and MouseFan Travel. MEI and MouseFan Travel is an authorized Disney vacation planner, specializing in cruises and packages to Disney and other vacation destinations around the world. They provide signature service with no agency fees. Get a no-obligation quote at www.mousefantravel.com.